Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Morissa Schwartz, author of Be a Digital Entrepreneur Today. Morissa, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Are you ready to get started?
Absolutely.
All right. Question number one. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
I would say not to overthink it. A lot of authors say, oh, I have writer's block. And these are even really established authors. You know, I have a book publishing company, and one of the biggest questions or issues that I hear from authors is, oh, I have writer's block. And the more they say it, the more it's in their head. And I'm also a literary doctoral student. And one of my professors said, when somebody said, oh, I have writer's block, he said, who do you think you are? You think you're going to write solid gold every time? No, you just need to write. And the more you write, the more it will come out of you. So writer's block is a poor excuse. Just write and you'll get over it. And I really love that advice. I love the idea of just writing and writing what comes out and not worrying so much, you know. Editing, that's what editing is for.
Well, I think it's also the power of habit too. It's just like working out. You get into a rhythm, you get used to it on a daily basis, and you're able to produce a lot of great content. We had a guy in the show recently that has done a daily blog post for, I think it was like 10 years in a row, every day, no matter what. So he built this huge amount of content that he was able to use for his books. And I really do feel one of the main things is get into that power of habit and just being, doing it consistently, and that very quickly gets rid of the writer's block.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true.
And I think the other thing too is done is better than perfect. Just get it out there and get on with it.
100%. That's what I say all the time.
Well, what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
About getting published?
Yes.
Well, it all depends on what type of publishing you're doing. If you are looking to be published by the big five, there's a whole obstacle course of things to do between getting your agent and your editor and everything and figuring out exactly how you're going to edit it. But if you are self-publishing or independent publishing, that's a whole other ball game, because then it's a matter of figuring out your own, editor and your own cover art and how you're going to market the book. So I think that one of the hardest parts is everything except the writing. I mean, a lot of people think that their job ends after they write, but writing is the fun part. That's half the battle. I mean, that's only half the battle. And
your book, was it done through your own company?
Well, I've published 6 books in the past 8 years. My first book I wrote when I was 16, and that was self-published before I had my book publishing company. Then my second book was published through a traditional publisher, VIP Inc. They're a mid-sized company out of Louisiana, so they published it. And in getting it published there, I learned how the publishing industry really works. And after that was when I started my own publishing company. And yes, my publishing company has published my last few books as well as about 70 other authors' books.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things is once you actually get everything down, you realize you don't really need a traditional publisher, because you got the main things of formatting, editing, obviously, and making sure it's professionally edited. I think it's one of the 3 biggest keys. Having a great looking book cover, and you can get out there and do it yourself or create your own company to be able to help other people.
Right, exactly.
And that'll transition nicely into our next question, and that is in regards to marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launches that has worked well.
Oh, well, that's definitely social media. So I was a big fan of Twitter and just seeing the dialogue that goes on there. So I saw that there were a lot of people using the hashtag #AmWriting, and there are a lot of communities around Twitter. So I started connecting with people, and that was actually how I grew my publishing company, through people using the hashtag #AmWriting. And Twitter has been a great tool for all of our books for marketing them. It's an inexpensive tool because you're simply, you can post videos, you can post links to your book page or articles about your book or just your thoughts. It's a fantastic tool that's highly underutilized.
Now you mentioned Twitter. What about Instagram, LinkedIn, some of those other pages? What are your thoughts on those?
They're good. They all have their pros and cons. Twitter is my personal favorite because a con of Instagram is the fact that it's limited. You cannot put a link to your book, for example, in a regular post. So you have to tell people, oh, go to my profile and find the link in my profile. And who's really going to do that? It takes a lot of extra effort. Whereas on LinkedIn, it's a different demographic. I don't know that you necessarily have people looking to read the next fantasy book, maybe a business book, but they're not really looking for the next vampire book. They're looking for a specific professional type of book.
And you mentioned the hashtag #MWriting. So that a hashtag that you discovered, or was that one that you created and it took off from there?
That was one that I discovered. But I did create a company called amwriting.co.
Nice.
Yeah, because I love the hashtag. But yes, I didn't. I was not the originator of the hashtag. I think whoever came up with it is brilliant, but it wasn't me.
Excellent. I really like that hook. I actually just took some notes on that too because you're right. It's just about finding the right hashtags, especially when it comes to publishing. And I'm glad that you're really utilizing a social media strategy. Outside of social media, what are some other strategies that you recommend since you're also in the industry?
Definitely getting out there. I have some authors, they're afraid to go out there. They're afraid to do events, and you really can't be. You have to go to book fairs and festivals and read at your local Barnes Noble locations and libraries and universities. When people see you, they get another sense for you. It's almost like how a singer does concerts. People then get to actually feel that singer's energy. It's the same thing with an author. People need to feel your energy. They need to see you get out there. They want to have those autographed copies of your book. And then also you can share those images and video from those events on your social media so that everybody can enjoy it.
Well, let's talk about your favorite book. So, what is your favorite book? And what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
It's funny because I am a literary doctoral student, but I prefer nonfiction books to fiction books. So I would have to say anything really by Tim Ferriss, which has become such a cliched answer at this point. Everybody loves Tim Ferriss's work, but his books are all monster books, so like over 1,000 pages. But you finish them so quickly. They're easily digestible. You get so much information out of there. His book, Tools for Titans, was a game changer. He had so many different people interviewed in all different walks of life. I love that book, and I really like everything that he's done. So some of the biggest things that I took from that were, number one, to work smart. A lot of people think, oh, I'm going to put 12 hours of work in every day and that's going to automatically make me a success. No, not necessarily. You need to work smart. So the same thing might take you 6 hours, but if you're doing it smartly, you might accomplish even more than you would if you were working 12 hours. So he teaches a lot of great lessons like that in his books.
And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
Um, that is a great question. On my Twitter, I put my own spin on a quote that I once heard, and it's my most retweeted quote. And it's, some authors are afraid to call themselves authors for the same reason that some artists are afraid to call themselves artists.
I like that. It really makes you think. I mean, I think probably the biggest thing with that is imposter syndrome. Maybe they don't think that they're necessarily good enough, and they are. They just don't realize it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Morissa, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
You folks can find me on Twitter. It's my first name, Morissa with an O, so Morissa Schwartz. I'm also on Instagram. I have a website, MorissaSchwartz.com, drrissyswriting.com, and then my book publishing company is genzpublishing.org.
Morissa, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.